Folks, we're all very welcome back to the Celtic Soul Podcast on a Monday morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning. If you're tuning in on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button because we've been getting stick that we don't have enough followers. If you want to know everything that we do, just visit celticfanzine.com. And we originated from a fanzine like my guest today, more than 90 minutes there. Matt McGlone, Alternative View, Cells for Change. How are you on this beautiful Monday morning?
Well, I've got to say, I'm going to change the song from Beautiful Sunday to Beautiful Monday because it's just a carry on from yesterday's fantastic feeling. I mean, I was, you know what it's like, your WhatsApp's going mad and you're talking to friends and pals and some you haven't seen for a while that maybe live far away. And, no, I think, when you're at the game, when you score against Rangers, for me, I'm sure it's the same for everybody else. It's a bolt of electricity goes from your head right down to your feet. You get this amazing feeling. And yesterday, I was fortunate my son and I were sitting together, and you're hugging your son at the game, three times at the goals, and then at full time, etc. It's a wonderful feeling. If you could bottle it and sell it, you'd be a zillionaire. You really would.
Matt, there's plenty of emotion in that statement there, and I sent my son a picture. He's living in Toronto now, and I sent him a picture yesterday from my viewing point because he would have been probably with me in Hampden if he was here. I always say, he loved the big game that Connor, it was. Although he's been in every stadium in Scotland with me over the years, when he got involved in the DJing and the rave scene, it was like if he was DJing in Scotland, he wanted a ticket for a game no matter who it was. But if he wasn't, it was when Rangers, other Rangers as they are known now, it was always, can you get me a ticket there? And I always did. And it's to spend a day going to that big game with, your son is special. So, I can see why you'd be emotional. And I was WhatsApping him before and after the game, and I'm sure he enjoyed a pint of stout in Toronto. But yeah, a very a lightning bolt, Matt. But what a week! What a week in football, and what a week for Celtic.
I mean, I remember you and I were speaking last week, and in fact, it wasn't even a week ago. It was Tuesday last week. Today's Monday. And we were talking about all the stuff that was going on with the statement and Brendan leaving and Martin coming in, and Martin came in literally hours before you and I spoke on here. So it was all very fresh and new. I remember saying to you at the end of all this, which was chaos at the time, what the most important thing here is Celtic and Celtic's results and getting 3 points on Wednesday against Falkirk, and then winning the cup yesterday. We spoke about that, and that is always a prime concern. That through any upheaval, how does Celtic come out the other end of this? What's the state of the club? As in, are the team well prepared and getting led properly to win games? And here we are, 6 days after there. And it's almost like all the chaos last week's evaporated because the granddaddy of Celtic goodness, Martin O'Neill, has walked into the building laughing and joking and cracking his usual jokes, and then having to say to the press, I was joking there. When he says a funny and the press are all quiet, because he's maybe having a wee go at a player, but he's not having a go at a player, he's just making fun of him. And then Martin says, I was actually joking there. So then I was thinking, it was great Wednesday night. I mean, the whole stadium was rocking and everything was going well. And there was a real freshness about Celtic's play. They were going down the wings, they were going through the middle. There was no this back to side stuff, that horrible build-up that we were watching for months on end. Where the ball was getting played to the back and then across the pitch, and it was almost like keyhole surgery trying to get the ball into the penalty box. That's all gone now. I mean, on the two games that we've witnessed so far with Martin, none of that has happened. He's been having wingers, running riot. With the players' balls zooming about the box, with 25 shots, I think, on target against Falkirk. There was a real freshness to the play. And it got me thinking, do players get overcoached sometimes and stuck in a rigid system because that's the way one particular manager may want them to play? And it's hard to be critical of Brendan because he was over the piece over the 2 spells at Celtic. He was at 11 trophies, I think he won. Was it 11 trophies, which is great. But all things come to an end at some point, and things were very stale since the start of the season. We were winning games just by the skin of our teeth without any flair. We drew games and lost, and things weren't right. But there's no point looking back. I'm not one for looking back. I always try and think positively and look forward. And, got me thinking, Martin's come in. Now, he was in on Tuesday, did his presser at 3:30 at Celtic Park. The Falkirk game's the next day. So, technically, he's not on the training ground with them prior to the Falkirk game. Because they don't really train on the day of the game. So, it tells you that a guy has come in with an aura and an understanding and using all his experience to unlock the rigid system that our players were playing in. And he's given them the freedom to play in such a simplistic way. Because he didn't have a lot of time to work with them. But he's just got this something, Martin O'Neill. And we know it's going to be temporary because Wednesday was great, 3 points that were required, and yesterday was great. But Martin's 73. And he's not set up to be the manager a long time. But what an effect, he's had in the 6 days he's been here. I mean, we've got a final to look forward to now, and we're still well in the league.
Yeah, Matt, you're echoing his words. He did, at one of the press conferences, he said, football is a simple game. Sometimes we overcomplicate it. So he said, I want my, with players that can tackle, and those with, basically those with a bit of flair to go and play football. So I was to that effect. And then Sean Maloney said in that press conference on Tuesday that he just gathered the senior players because he's going to rely on them because he hasn't got time to work with them on the training pitch. So yeah, you're echoing them, and in those games, the senior players really have stood up.
Yeah.
I thought Schmeichel. I thought both goalkeepers were good, Jesse. I thought Butland kept Rangers in the game, and I thought Schmeichel made some really telling saves. And which will, he's been there and he's bought the t-shirt many times. So I just thought it was great. But what about the young kids up front? Johnny Kenny and Callum Osmond.
Yeah. I mean, if he'd sat here doing this 4 weeks ago, we would have said those guys are way down the list in the pecking order to get a game. But, needs must, and we didn't have any other players to play up front. So these boys were really thrust in. And, I can't remember how many managers have said it. There's probably so many. Maybe Alec Ferguson kind of coined the phrase when he said that if they're good enough, doesn't matter what age they are, put them in. I mean, really chuffed for Johnny Kenny. Smashing goal yesterday, 2 against Falkirk. Goals give, we both know Frank McAvey pretty well, and he'll tell you that goals give strikers confidence. Doesn't matter how they go in. If your name's on the scoreline at the end of the day, you've scored the goal. But Johnny Kenny's goals were great strikes, then with the head as well. Young Callum Osmond, he missed a bit of a sitter yesterday. And I was thinking, keep your head up, son. Keep your head up. Although you're sort of many cursing him for missing it, the boy's still playing, and he looked disappointed. His head in his hands when he missed that one. And you're thinking, keep your head up, son. Another opportunity will come. And it's been the same for Johnny Kenny. Johnny's missed a few, and he kept his head up and has scored. So it's great to see these young lads. And the crazy thing is, Osmond can't play on Thursday night against Midtjylland. because Brendan didn't put him in the European squad. So he's not even going to be on the plane. I mean, it just shows you how quick a turnaround in fortunes. It's been a boy not considered good enough to be in a big squad for Europe. Was it 23 players? I think it's 24 players. He wasn't deemed good enough to be in that squad. And, he helped win us the game yesterday. So give youth a chance, yeah, definitely.
And what about our captain, the other Callum? What a fucking goal.
Well, I mean, where does he get the energy from? What a screamer. Right, Butland was flying through there, and you could tell when Callum hit it, no way he was getting near that. And then had the energy to run from their end right up by the halfway line to take the salute of the Celtic fans, bursting with energy. He was a tiger yesterday. He's always a tiger, but he's tackling, he's running, the closing down. I mean, if you look at Celtic players from the word go, were on it. Rangers couldn't really get out of their half early on. And we were harrying and chasing them and not giving them time in the ball, using up great energy. And, it was really refreshing to see. I mean, you and I would remember Martin first time around. A lot of people a lot younger wouldn't remember Martin first time around. My youngest boy's 24. And, he wouldn't remember Martin. But to see Martin's team yesterday, I felt it was quite reminiscent of the flair that he played with when he was manager at Celtic first time.
Yeah, Callum running back to the Celtic fans, but Matt, the 3 goal celebrations, 3 completely different celebrations. Johnny Kenny, straight to the Rangers fans, right? I watched the highlights back this morning having breakfast, okay? Sligo boy, we're proud of our Irish boys, and some of them do get stick when they're over there, he's only in the team because he's Irish or whatever. Johnny Kenny scores that great header. And brilliant delivery as well from the corner from Engels, whose delivery, I've said it before, can be so good. And sometimes frustrating when he doesn't deliver because he has it in him. But so Johnny Kenny goes over to the Rangers fans, he's celebrating in front of them. They're giving it loads, and it's just it just made me moaning. I was just sitting there having breakfast, going, "This is brilliant, right?" Callum, the opposite, scores in the same end, but runs to the fans, to the Celtic fans, right? Probably a bit of experience as well, because he's seen Johnny celebrating in front of them, runs. And then, Matt, you went too far for me in the stadium yesterday. We've got goal line view of Callum Osmond's goal.
Right down in front of us.
What a ball from Tierney. In between the 2 centre halves, in the back of the net. And then what a way to say, how he is, boys. I'm here, first goal, right in front of us. And at that stage, I'm hugging complete strangers. And, I look to the left and the Rangers fans, they're gone. They say they don't do walking away, man. They love a walk. We know that in July. And I tell you one thing, Matt, right? It wasn't a walk yesterday. It was a steady run.
Yeah. No, it was all those points you mentioned there. It's just brilliant. I mean, I walked it from the town down into Lynch's in the centre from Hampden into town. And it's good. It's a good long walk. But see when you're bouncing along on adrenaline, it doesn't even seem like it. It just... in football, my entire life, there's never been a feeling like it in scoring against Rangers. That electricity that runs through your body from head to toe is just something else. As I say, if you could bottle it, you'd be a zillionaire. It's just something that comes from you in the inside, and it makes you really happy. And all your worries and things that we all have in the world all disappear. They just disappear for those moments. And then you have the afterglow. The afterglow, you go back and chat to your mates over a beer and you run through the game. And it's a real coming together of emotions and feelings, and it's a reward we get for being Celtic fans, because it's not all good. We have tough times. We have lean years to get through. I remember, the '89 Cup final when we stole the Rangers shy. You can still see Roy Aitken picking the ball up there and John Brown wondering where the referee is. 30 seconds later, the ball's in the back of the net.
Joe Miller.
Joe Miller. And I was talking to Peter Grant last week, and we were talking about that goal, and I says, what did you say to Joe Miller when he ran away to the Rangers? I had a bit like Johnny Kenny yesterday, in fact, the same bit. He jumped in his back and he says, for God's sake, Joe, don't make the sign of the cross. Don't bless yourself. Peter's want to talk. At Ibrox. We're talking about lean time. So from then on till 95, 6 years, and at the end of that 6 year, 1 trophy. So 6 years, 3 trophies a year, 18 trophies, and we won 1. Now, we're talking about the good times just now, but I think what I'm trying to make here is that the great feeling yesterday helps make up for the poor times when we won nothing. We played for 18 trophies between 89 and 94, and we won 1.
Yeah, and then of course we had the disappointment of the League Cup as well, and so many disappointments, Matt. It was kind of retro yesterday. It was kind of a throwback. Like as you say, your youngest son wouldn't remember Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill would have been when I started bringing Conor Forbes, probably too young, but was probably a case of I was looking after him. His mammy was probably away, and it was a case of, do I bring him on the bus? He's a bit young, or do I miss the game? So I brought him on the bus, and so he's got great memories of the bus and the boat playing with other kids, but not actually of Martin O'Neill. He was aware of Henrik Larsson, because I think he was just such an iconic figure back under Martin. But the teams came out, the game kicked off. Danny ROHL was sing song to him yesterday. Danny ROHL, by the Celtic fans, I might add, near the end of the game. But he comes out right in his blazer, which I believe is not his. It doesn't fit him too well, Matt. I think what they've done there is they've said, right, Danny, if you stay for more than 6 weeks, if we don't sack you, we're going to get you a new jacket. But here's one that the last manager left behind. He didn't really wear it much. So you wear that. And if you can guarantee us six weeks and a couple of wins, we'll get you a new blazer, right? Because if you look at him, Matt, it doesn't fit him. He's got a big jumper on underneath it to try and pad it out. And then Martin is looking splendid in his retro Adidas, 73 years of age, right? In his Adidas gear, right? He looks like
he's got his Adidas copper boots on.
Oh yeah, black and white, retro, and he's looking like someone that's just come out of an Oasis gig in the 90s. Okay, he's looking great. But he's unsure if he goes into the box. If you notice, for the first 5 minutes, Sean Maloney goes down first. Then he comes back. He doesn't go into the box. He comes back. And then O'Neill hesitantly eventually goes into the box. And then, at one stage, right, I thought he was coming down towards us. He was that far out of the box, right? But the fourth official was saying nothing to him because he was kicking every ball. He is just so animated on the sideline, right? We also had a red card, man. After that, probably the worst game in history of the Glasgow Derby at Ibrox. A terrible 0-0 draw. We get a red card, we get tackles flying in, we get loads of yellow cards, we get goals, we get excitement, we get the fans singing, both ends. So, yeah, it was like stepping back in time. And then another thing I noticed, Matt, the speed of some of the players, especially Osmond when he came on. O'Neill must love that. Because I'd flashes back to Didier Gat flying up the wing and Bobby Petto in his first season, O'Neill coming in. I really had, and then we went back to a pub close to Hampden. I haven't had a drink near Hampden in I don't know how long, right? Because when we used to get the bus, we used to bail into a pub in Hampden, and then we get a quick one before the bus left. But since I've started flying, you generally have a beer in the city centre and then make your way to the ground. But I ended up meeting a couple of old friends in one of the pubs, the Montfort, and we had a sing song and a couple of points. The only thing that wasn't retro was the price of a pint, man. It was £6, a pint of tenants in a plastic cup, right? You know, that was a bit of a shocker, right? It was even there in the city centre, but it was just brilliant, you know. It was just, and the airport, well, Matt, last night, the airport was, you know, full of Celtic fans. The plane was full, you know, and everybody was buzzing. But as soon as the plane went up the runway at, you know, 11 o'clock off, it was 10 o'clock. As soon as the flight took off, and they switched the lights off for takeoff, that was it. Silence, everyone asleep because you know, an early start for a lot of people. And, you know, when you go through the emotions of that game, because at times it's not an enjoyable experience. The goals are enjoyable. The build-up is enjoyable. The after party is very enjoyable. But those times in the game, Matt, especially when they get that dodgy penalty and they come back to one each, you know, 10 men, and you're kind of going, oh no, you can just, you've seen the headlines in your head, 10 men, you just, you know.
Well, no, you're right. Yeah, I was seeing headlines in my head because I'm thinking, you know, they're going to maybe sneak something here. Just a quick one to go back to your £6 a pint. I was in Iceland a couple of weeks ago, and it's £14 for a pint. There you go. So
a sober holiday.
So and you can't buy alcohol in supermarkets. You have to go to a special shop.
Oh.
So there's a wee bit of a drought going on with me for those days. I saw Guinness on the menu, but I've tried Guinness abroad and it hasn't been great. I didn't really want to try it in Iceland, you know.
not at those prices.
No. Yeah, so sorry, what was the last point you made? I've completely forgotten about it.
It's just about the game, you know. You go through all the emotions. I said, you know, the highs are the goals, you know, the build up, the after party. But there are moments in the game, and most of it, right, you're on the hooks. It's just you're just so nervous.
Yeah, the headlines. You've seen the headlines. Yeah, pardon me. We never quite killed the game off, obviously, until extra time. And you were always sort of thinking, see, sometimes 10 men get a wee surge of energy that they're in the trenches and they really have to stick together and fight this out. And they did that. They weren't going to roll over. And Celtic, for a couple of periods in the game, particularly the start of the second half, you know, we kind of lost control of the ball a wee bit. And I was seeing these headlines. You're right, actually. In your head, you're sort of seeing tomorrow 10 men Rangers victory or something. And I'm thinking, no, but we've got enough in the tank here to do this. And Martin sort of rejuvenated the team a wee bit. I mean, we must have had 5 bookings, and some of them were for nothing at the start of the second half. And I'm thinking, I said to my son, I can see us getting a red card here, you know, for a second booking, for something daft, and to even it up. But we stuck with it. Martin's substitutes, I thought, were very clever. I thought Tanuki, I thought he'd still a bit more in the tank, to be honest with you. I think he could have stayed on a bit longer. But you're never going to argue with a manager who makes good substitutions and we win the game against Rangers. So that's the manager's call, and he's right. And we all have an opinion, but he's been proved right. So we eventually, extra time, I mean, I think we just really got our act together in extra time and the 2 goals. I mean, at the end of the day, I think 3-1 did flatter them for the chances that we missed.
Yeah.
But both keepers had good saves, but Butland had more saves to make than Schmeichel did. But the saves that Schmeichel did make, I thought were great. There was one in the second half where we were, he was on the ground and he just pushed the ball away on the ground. Do you remember that one? Just pushed it away inside of the goal. There was a Rangers player just closing in on him. And I just thought, you know, people
and if he touches the Rangers player, though, if he touches the Rangers player, it's a penalty.
Yeah. people say Schmeichel's lost his sort of mobility a bit, as far as that he's not as sprightly. But yesterday he made fantastic, important saves, and yeah, great deal round. The afterglow afterwards is always priceless. The hours after, the afterglow that you get after these victories is just something else.
And when we went back to the pub, Matt, I met a couple of people and they were coming in and they were going, oh, we made hard work of that, or they were looking for a negative. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. We've just beat them 3-1. Enjoy the night.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
tomorrow when you've had a sleep, to watch the game back and you can analyze it then. I says, but tonight is all about celebrating. And they went, you know what, you're right. And it was the same on social media, the quick flick on social media in the pub. And there people, some people are still, even Celtic fans, and they're celebrating, but yeah, there's always like a little negative, and I think on a day like yesterday, it was a day to celebrate. Any victory over that mob is always well worth celebrating. And like we've seen our own Celtic team in recent years. When Brendan Rodgers first stint, we went down to 10 men in Ibrox. He makes a substitution, and Big Eddie comes on, and we win the game with 10 men. So I remember those headlines and I remember those bragging rights. So that is kind of in the back of your mind, and probably because we write, Matt, if you're out for a walk, you're writing a column in your head.
Absolutely.
Like that's the way, I suppose some people, especially people who write, uh, historical books and that, they need to have all the facts and that. But for me, it's just from the heart when I write, and it could go anywhere, and I know I'm not writing anything to win a prize or a writer's prize. It's just street blogging basically what I do.
Absolutely, it's raw emotion coming from the inside, and it feels like a drive. You've got a drive in you to just sort of knock it out there, as you say. You don't need to sit there with textbooks in front of you. Just knock it out. A lot of times, particularly sort of fanzine writers, I think the gift of fanzine writing is that we try and articulate how we feel. It's almost like a conversation we've had maybe in the pub after the game or at the
100%.
game. And we're sort of trying to put that into words. And, fans don't like gobbledygook. Fans like straightforward talking. And I think if you talk straightforward and you can turn that straightforward talk into words and paragraphs, then I think it comes out good. And I think that's what, which is important that way, But yeah, great days. And, we've got the Michelin game on Thursday, then we've got Kilmarnock at Celtic Park on Sunday, and then a 2-week break. So whoever the new manager's going to be, I don't think we should be rushing this. And we're not approaching like the way Rangers did. They were getting desperate because they were getting knocked back all over the place. They literally had 3 knockbacks, but number 2 knocked back, Danny Rowe, came back into play again. He had knocked it back, Gerrard knocked it back, and Kevin Muscat knocked it back. So they were getting to a bit of a sort of desperate stage. I don't think that will happen with us. I think the manager that we decide to approach, whoever that will be the Celtic manager. I don't think somebody's going to be given 2 days to think about it and say, no, to take me out the running. I don't think we operate like that. I think everything will be done behind closed doors. And when the approach is made, it'll be taken up. I'd be surprised if we get knocked back by whoever we approach. That might be different, of course, if that manager is under contract at another club and the other club is maybe holding Celtic to ransom as far as a payoff for the manager. That could alter things there. But I think if somebody gets offered the Celtic job, whoever that is, then they'll take it. Part of me sort of wishes that, or hopes that Martin's still in charge come the cup final, because a bit of me thinks Martin should be walking out there with that team because he won such a colossal game yesterday. And considering the circumstances that Martin came in last Sunday night, sitting having his Horlicks, watching the telly, not knowing what's happened, a week later, we're into a cup final. and we've got 3 precious points in the league. You know, even if another manager does come in, is it possible that Martin and the new manager could walk out together? Just as a show of unity and as a sort of thanks to Martin, even though the new man will be in charge. Could it be that if we have a new man in charge, that he'll walk out and Martin will walk out with him side by side? I think that would be nice. It'd be a thank you to Martin, and what a lift it would give the fans and the players, I would imagine.
Matt, your book's emotionally Celtic. Now you're talking romantically Celtic.
Well, I couldn't even begin to describe how my life with relationships and Celtic have become intertwined. Let me tell you, sometimes it's been a bit of a rocky road.
Matt, before I let you go, right? Before we wrap up the podcast, Fussy, thanks very much for chatting to me. I just want to say, Matt, you spoke about Midtjylland there at the top of the Europa League table. I think they've 3 out of 3 games they've won. And Martin O'Neill saw them against Forest. And he mentioned at some stage this week, or maybe yesterday, in one of the pressers or one of the interviews, that they're a big physical team. He said they were just too physical for Nottingham Forest. So he has an insight into them now. So it might be a knife for to go out there and hopefully get something out of the game, and that we can match them physically. That we like the trustees and the scales, and they can, because I think it's going to have to be a defensive performance, judging by O'Neill's common jersey and judging by where Midtjylland are. The last time we met them, when they knocked us out of the Champions League under ROHL-ING, we were just coming out of that COVID season. I think there was maybe 5,000 fans allowed into the stadium that night. They're a different team since then, and we're a different team. So, would you be happy with a point in over there?
I think under the circumstances we're in, we have to be realistic. Yeah, we'd be happy with a point. I mean, I just think, with the current state of the situation at Celtic, a new manager is going to be coming in. There'll obviously be funds made available to a new manager. So I think anything we get just now is a bonus, because we've got a temporary management team in just now. We've got a load of injured players, good players. So yeah, I think we do. I think we have to take what we can get just now. I think for me this year, Europe is a wee bit of a side issue, to be honest with you, just because of the situation at Celtic just now. Things are a wee bit here and a wee bit there, and we don't know what the future's going to hold as far as new managers concerned. So I think, for me, well, like every Celtic fan, it's always been about winning domestically. And Europe has always been a bit of a side issue. We're certainly not set up squad-wise to do a lot in Europe this year. I think we have to be realistic there. So getting through it and collecting points, and if it's a point and win a Thursday night, then so be it. We want 3 points, obviously. And importantly, that a performance comes out like we've been getting for the last 2 games under Martin. If those type of performances carry on Thursday night, then I don't think we've got anything to fear. That's important for me, that freshness in play carries on, and and we're into this sort of rhythm of playing differently than we were under Brendan.
Matt, thank you so much. We look forward to Thursday night, and then we have Kilmarnock at home on Sunday. Callum Osmonds will have a night off on Thursday, and he will be ready to hopefully open his scoring account at Celtic Park on Sunday. Matt, we'll talk soon. Thanks very much.
Pleasure as always, Andrew.